What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So we know almost for a fact that the New York Jets won't be playing any starters in the Hall of Fame game. Robert Saleh pretty much mentioned as much himself during the press conference earlier this week. He said we've implemented some team activities to try to break it up and just make sure we're taking care of the guys. It's a good thing for the young guys because they're going to get an extra look in a game setting, especially in the Hall of Fame game where we're probably not going to play any of our starters and let all of those young guys roll. It'll be a really good opportunity for them. And so this really isn't shocking news to me whatsoever. It really shouldn't be to the rest of us either because he's made a habit so far during his tenure of ramping things up as the preseason goes, right? Doesn't seem to be a big believer, and I know we've been trying to increase the talent level over the course of his tenure, but Robert Saleh hasn't generally been a big believer of requiring that his starters need a lot of those preseason reps, especially when things aren't going to be anything close to real game time situations, right? Very vanilla defenses. Offensively, you might have some creative things that are going on, but this is really kind of the, I guess, Pro Bowl version of talent during the season. Obviously, you have some of those roster bubble guys that are really going to be out there trying their hearts out. But I mean, realistically, you're not going to see creative blitzes and press coverage the entirety of the game. And even when you see starters, they may be in for a series at best. So this is music to my ears because we actually have a pretty, you take a look at our starting units. There's not really question marks anywhere. We finally have our quarterback. We know who we want our running back to be. We'll see if we carry a fullback in, right? But that's not the biggest issue in the world. Wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Alan Lazard. Doesn't matter where you want to rank those guys at. We feel very confident with that trio. Tight end, Tyler Conklin, CJ. People are starting to get more hype on Jeremy Ruckert. Offensive line-wise, yes, I think that's going to be something that needs to be fine-tuned as much as possible before week one. And then defensively, is much of the same situation. We know pretty much all of the starting spots and have a high level of confidence in them. So to me, there's a few guys that should be spotlighted in terms of these backup role player, roster bubble kind of guys that we should be teed into. And to kick things off, obviously, going back to the quarterback position, it's Zach Wilson, right? What does he look like when the lights come on? This is going to be a huge question for us because, we've seen and heard the flashes, not only during this training camp, but even from the years previously. I mean, until Garrett Wilson dropped some of the bombs and, some of those rumors started flying out about what Zach Wilson's practice habits were like and what the consistency was, everybody thought things were great. We've seen all of the highlight films and the big arm from Zach Wilson and him running around, hearing about the escapability, and we thought everything was cool. So I don't really have as many concerns about how he practices, how he breaks down film and things. I think a lot of what we saw before was definitely on the coaching staff in terms of being able to properly get him developed. There was a great article put out on ESPN actually talking about the why don't I remember his name? But the Panthers pick, Bryce, I want to say it was. I really can't remember his name. It's bugging the hell out of me. Either way, though, basically the article was saying how helpful it is having coaching personnel that has also played the position before, or just having people that can speak the same language as a quarterback, and how much that's aided their development regardless of how that may have showed up in the win and loss column. So finally having a coaching staff in place. We don't necessarily have a guy that's played the position per se, but that's the role Aaron Rodgers can assume. Having Nathaniel Hackett in there, having Todd Downing, having that consistent history that they've shown before of being able to get great performances out of maybe some mediocre talent or inconsistent players, I think will speak volumes. So I'm very interested to see in somewhat of a pressurized situation for Zach Wilson, right? A lot of us may not be 100% confident in him as the backup quarterback. What he'll look like in a situation that maybe means more to him than anybody else that realistically should be playing in a preseason game. So Curious to see how he comes out of the gate swinging. Obviously, the running back position, I'm very interested in Israel Bandikanda. I think I have somewhat of a realistic expectation of what we're getting from Michael Carter, what Bam Knight has offered to us in limited play last year. Israel really is the biggest unknown. I want to see if maybe he can pop off a big play and what'll be his best chance to go out there and look like he's a superstar right away, and maybe parlay that into getting a pretty clear running back 2 role, and maybe distance the conversation from the New York Jets and necessarily needing to acquire or lessening the intensity of acquiring a guy like a Dalvin Cook. Jeremy Ruckert, definitely another huge one for me, right? This will give us our biggest chance since he was dealing with the foot injury all last year, the plantar fasciitis, I believe it was. Can we see him in a significant enough role, right? Can he go out there and play, 20 to 30-ish snaps? Can we see him utilized in a more of a receiving role than necessarily having to be relegated to blocking and kind of being hidden behind the scenes like he was in a deep offense like he was utilized in Ohio State? So very curious how they'll plan to build on what we saw, which was a strong blocking performance the final week of the season last year. Offensive line-wise, I expect the Dwayne Brown still hasn't returned. So really my main attention goes to Joe Tippmann. I think by default, as Robert Saleh's pretty much made it clear too, Connor McGovern is going to be starter until otherwise noted. But it really does feel like a three-way competition. He made it known to call out Wes Schweitzer as part of that group as well. So I can't wait to see Joe Tippmann's agility and what he offers athletically on display. Can Wes Schweitzer actually prove that this is a legit 3-man competition and not necessarily that he was just brought in to be a backup and kind of heard but not seen as the veteran of the group? Defensive line wise, of course, Will McDonald is going to be what draws my attention. Can he actually look or be somewhat of a Bryce Huff or a Bryce Huff 2.0 right away? More specifically, if that's going to be the case in terms of him being a Bryce Huff 2.0, can he hold up better against the run? Because I think that's going to dictate a lot of how fast he ascends in this lineup, where we've seen earlier guys like Jermaine Johnson and Michael Clemens get 33 to 34% of the snaps. So if he's going to find a way into that upper echelon to maybe get borderline starter level snaps, I think it'll need to happen here, where he displays that ability to go out there and handle his run duties, maybe set the edge to a certain degree in order to kind of build on what we already expect out of him as a pass rusher. Jamie Sherwood, of course, I mean, I'm probably not mentioning any surprising names here, but it's Jamie Sherwood and it's Hamza Nasruddin for me personally. Even beyond those two, Chad Surratt is my wild card dark horse candidate. I just love what I saw from him collegiately, and then understanding that he transferred from being a quarterback to a linebacker and seeing the production that he put up without really even scratching the surface of what it means to be a linebacker, how to play the position, understanding what's happening more often than not. I feel like if he can piece some things together after sitting on the practice squad mostly last year, he could probably steal a role away from somebody. Maybe you try to sneak a Zaire Barnes onto the practice squad instead. Maybe you choose a guy like Chad Surratt, who's also going to be a special teams warrior, over a guy like Hamza Nasruddin, who seems like he's on his way out as opposed to sticking around on this roster. And then Trey Dean the second and Marquise Waters, the two undrafted free agents in the safety room. Those are the guys that I'm keeping the biggest eyes on, just because we've seen their ability to play close to the line of scrimmage. We've also seen the versatility to kind of play deep, more so with Marquise Waters than Trey Dean. But can Trey Dean show that he can excel in a clear role right away? Can Marquise Waters maybe force the issue in the free safety room and potentially make things more of a difficult conversation there in terms of what will work with the roster the best, right? Other than that, though, realistically, There's so many guys to be excited about. I haven't mentioned any of the undrafted free agents in the wide receiver room. I want to see Xavier Gibson return ability. I want to see if Jerome Cap can go out there and show that elite first step speed. In game time, can Jason Brownlee show off his catch radius? There's a lot to love about this roster all the way throughout. So let me know what your guys' who do you think should be spotlighted in terms of who we should pay the most attention to during this Hall of Fame game. And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.